Okay, we see, hard to get with the dog. And then he just loves you.
I'm jealous.
We're here with Dave Keystone and Rocky and Annie. And Dave, do you want to give us a bit of intro into who you are and what you do for the people for the fine folks who are listening who don't know who you are?
Dave Keystone, 42, single, never married, no kids, het cis white Jewish man, assigned Jewish at birth, given Jewish affirming surgery, but don't subscribe to the social construct of Jewish. Third generation Bathurst and Eglinton.
Oh.
I have a company called Keepsake Video where we make personal profile videos of people's parents and grandparents to preserve their stories for future generations. I host and produce traditional television. I have a show on CBC called Small Talk where I get life advice and perspective from kids. But mostly, I am the development lead at a charity called Shelter Movers where we help move individuals and families, primarily women and children, who are fleeing abuse and gender-based violence. I have 4 siblings, and things are good. You know, things are okay.
What sign are you? I think you just left that out.
I'm April 4th, Aries.
Ooh,
Born on the same day as one of my best friends.
I think that was maybe one of the best intros we've had.
Pretty solid.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's pretty solid. Did you practice that?
No. I'm on the front lines of online dating. I could go on.
You mentioned that a couple times.
I knit, I sew, I embroider.
Do you think this is like just like a platform for you to sell yourself?
We do have a lot of women.
I know, but like honestly, it's kind of, that's a little lame. You don't go out with that. You kind of have to let the ladies see what you're talking about.
Listen,
get
you
into
do you.
See, oh, I love taking care of women.
You do you, and I'll do me.
No, that is true.
Yeah. You do you. I think that's the episode. I think that's the name of the episode.
I think I have trouble with that. Yeah. Good. Well taken.
And Lan met you the other week, right?
We're new friends. We met about a week ago. Had coffee, learned a little bit more about Shelter Movers, which I'm very excited about because I'm gonna come on board and help donate some time. And yeah,
we're very excited about Lanny.
Well, Lanny is amazing. Like, she is a doer. She gets shit done. I feel like, there's a lot of people out there who talk the talk and don't walk the walk. But when Lanny's in, she's all in.
Yeah.
We're very excited about Lanny because Lanny meets with me, says, I want to do this. I want to help you. There's like financial support. There's community support. There's all these like connection support. And then we're like, you should really go through the online training and orientation and come go out on a move and whatever. And a lot of people are like, yeah, I'll do that. And she's actually doing it.
Right.
And so that's like, I'm like, oh, look at her. She's actually doing it.
Yeah, that's not surprising. And you got involved. So for people who know, so Shelter Movers, like you said, it relocates women and kids who are fleeing domestic abuse.
Yeah, so I'm a volunteer in my life. I like to commit a lot of time to volunteering. I have a story that I could share with you about.
I think it's a nice story. I think you should share it.
Do you want me to share it right now?
I think you should.
Okay, and then I'll tell you about Shelter Movers.
Yeah, I think it's a nice segue into it.
So I care about volunteering just because it's just something I do. And then end of 2019, my dad dies of cancer. He did medical assistance and dying. It was a very peaceful, beautiful death. But my dad dies. 2 months later, my psychiatrist, who I saw twice a week, every week for 12 years, died suddenly. Right after my dad died. Oof. Then 2 companies I've been working with, we separated ways. A relationship I was in ended. COVID started. So I experienced all this loss like super quickly, and it was very difficult. We're just having the dog walk out now.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I knew this was going to happen with the dog.
That's okay. So Will and Lenny's heard the story. So I experienced a lot of loss really quickly. Dipped into a really dark depression for 3 months. Paralyzed on my couch. Then started to do everything everyone said to get out of depression. New psychiatrist, cognitive behavioral therapy, nutritionist, fucking the gym people, whatever they're called. Like trainer. If someone had told me to put a pineapple in my ass, I would have tried. I did everything to get out of a bad place, and it wasn't working. So I had 3 months of paralysis, depression, 3 months of trying to get myself out of a bad place. And at the end of those 3 months, I was like, you know what? None of this is working. Death isn't an option. What am I going to fucking do? Excuse me. Are we allowed to swear?
You can absolutely.
I was like, what am I going to do? And I thought, what if you had no worries? What if none of your problems existed? What if you had your girlfriend back and you had all this money and your job and career satisfaction? What would you want to do with your time? And I just thought, like, I'd probably just want to be a full-time volunteer because, like, what else is there to do? And so I thought, why don't you give yourself 3 months to go actually do that? I didn't take on any new work. I told all my colleagues, friends, and family what I'm doing. And I took 3 months and I became a full-time volunteer. I found the Toronto Wildlife Center where I started cleaning cages. Sprint Senior Care, where I was delivering Meals on Wheels, and Shelter Movers, where we help move women and children who are fleeing abuse. I did that for 3 months. Quickly started to regain a sense of purpose. I'm going out doing all this important stuff, a sense of community, of new like-minded people who care about people, and most importantly, perspective. When you go out and you do shelter moves, you do not come home and complain about your life. And then at the end of those 3 months, I was sitting on my couch and I was like, I've lived a whole life where all I've ever heard is like, do what you love and the money will come. That's all I've ever heard in my life. Just do what you love. The money will come. Don't worry. The money will come. And I rewrote it to set up a life of giving and the rest will come. Because when I leaned into those 3 months of just giving of myself to other people to get myself out of a bad place, it changed my life. And then Shelter Movers. So Shelter Movers, we're a volunteer-powered charity that helps move women and individuals and families, but primarily women and children who are fleeing abuse. What does it actually look like? A bunch of volunteers, randos like us, get together. We go rent vans and trucks. We meet up with police and security. We pick up a client and her kids from domestic violence shelters that are all over the city, and we go back to their abuser's place and we pack up and move out and store their stuff until they find safe housing. I'm literally scooping drawers of clothes into garbage bags, dismantling bunk beds, packing dishes on the fly real quick. And then we put it in storage, bring a client back to the shelter. And then 3 months, 5 months, a year down the road, once she finds safe housing, we move her stuff from our storage to her new home. It is the most incredible thing. I couldn't believe it. I was volunteering full time for 3 months. So I was going out. I was like, I'm doing this 5 times a week. They were like, who is this guy? And I was like, this isn't crazy. I can't believe what I'm seeing. I can't believe what I'm doing. There are domestic violence shelters all over the city. It's crazy. So then they reach out to me and they're like, how else can you help us? Because like, who's doing this 3-5 times a week? What's wrong with this guy? Yeah. No, honestly, they were like, who are you? Like people do it like once a month, once a year. And so I then came on board and said, I can help you fund develop. I can help you with marketing communications. And so slowly but surely, I have organically gotten into this charity, worked with this charity. And then only recently I've said to myself, okay, it's been 2 years. I know this thing inside and out. I trust it. I know where the money goes. I know who the people are. I meet the clients on a regular basis. Now I'm comfortable to ask people for money. That's it. So Shelter Movers, changed my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Heavy. It's heavy stuff.
That is heavy.
Yeah.
But to your point, I feel like it just probably puts every single thing in perspective. And I think the biggest thing too is like what you said, like if you give, kind of like the rest will come. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's such a big thing because I think a lot of our followers and listeners, they're really stuck in these places and they just like actually, and maybe not in a deep depression or however, you were obviously in a really bad place, but I think different people are in different places from situations in their life, whether it's death, divorce, financial, and it's like, they don't know how to get out of it. So 100%. I feel like, giving in any form, I think can put all of that into perspective.
I'm a huge volunteer advocate. I've been playing music every week for 1 hour at an old folks home for the past like 15 years. I go in, I play songs like, oh, ain't got a barrel of money. Like literally like when the red robin comes, blah, blah. It's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen. It is the best hour of my week because I know that in that hour, I'm absolutely doing the right thing. I'm in the right, I'm just like, these people are happy. I'm happy. I'm not like, I love this idea. I suffer from like mental health challenges like anyone else. What am I doing in my life with this and that? And I love that for this hour, there's no question that I'm doing the right thing. And that gives me peace. And the old people love it. But I tell people about volunteering. So I also feed the homeless out of the cold. Like I do all this stuff. I tell people though, it takes work to find volunteer work that works for you. It takes legitimate, like Lanny, we met. Yeah. It's like, and I said, like, you're going to come try this, you do whatever. And like, if it works, that's the dog scratching at the door, folks. Dog scratching at the door. Wants on the show.
I told you, if you ignore him, he will come.
He's back.
I love him. But so, it takes work to find volunteer work that works for you. And once you find it, though, it's so great. And the thing that people think is like, oh, volunteering. Oh, I don't have time. I don't have this and that. And it's like, dude, we're talking like 1 hour a week.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a big
thing. I think it's intimidating.
Sure.
And I don't think like what I even experience is it's hard to get into some of these systems. Like as much as like, you're like, I want to throw my time and money at all these things and get involved. And you think like, wow, look at me. Like they're like literally don't have time to answer you. Like get in line.
It can be a pain in the butt.
Depending on what you're doing. So it does take a lot of time and process and finding what's meaningful for you, right? Because it's not going to, if you're doing something good, that's always great. But I don't think it's going to, I think you have to find what makes you tick, right? That makes, so.
Absolutely. volunteertoronto.ca if you live in Toronto is a great place. It's a great resource. You go on, you put in things you care about, you read through.
Smart.
But you're right though, that like some, like I won't name names, but some charities and places I've reached out to, their volunteer services managers suck. They don't get back to you and it's annoying and you hate it. But you got to keep trying, because once you find it, it really, I think it changes your life, or changed my life.
Yeah.
Did you always do it from a young age? Like, because you're quite a quirky guy. I mean, just for people to kind of paint a little picture, Dave came in and you sat down at my front door with your legs kind of weird, spread the eagle a little.
They were spread apart a little bit.
And
like they weren't in the air though; they were on the ground.
They were V.
Right.
It was a welcoming position for a dog to get into the lap.
To get the puppy to
You were
love.
trying to just coerce the dogs a little to you. You just seem like you got a lot of personality. Like you like people. You've got these connections. So I feel like, have you always had that growing up? Like kind of that connection with people?
Dude, the joke, connection with people, sure. Empathy for pain. Well, I considered empathy for pain. I've always felt sad for people who are suffering, whether it's a kid being bullied in school or whatever it is. I've always felt sad for some reason for other people. I know my story about why I feel that way, because I think I felt like an outcast and a useless lowlife growing up. Well, because my parents are both doctors. All their friends are doctors and lawyers. Everyone's a professional.
Right.
And then I'm like this dumb, like, I'm in like French immersion. I don't know, 2 + 2 is 7. I'm literally a dum-dum. And then like I don't feel good enough around. And one of my siblings and I have talked about that we don't feel good enough. I am in love with your dog. I'm just gonna pause everyone. He's finally in. The leg spread thing. He doesn't eat it. He likes someone who plays hard to get.
I don't love all the licking. Yeah.
But it's that. So I felt like an outcast, like an idiot. And then I've always had empathy for people who just don't feel like good in their own skin in a way. But the volunteering, my mom kind of instilled it in me a bit. And so like I've been volunteering since I was like 15, 16 years old. Hours, tens of hours, 100 really plus hours when I was in high school. And everyone was like, oh, he's so nice, such a nice guy. The funny thing about volunteering is, I was going to say too, is most of the people I volunteer with are like super dark people working off some serious shit.
Really?
Like everyone thinks that everyone's like Mother Teresa out there volunteering. They are not. And I almost want to make like a reality show, like rock and roll volunteers. Like most of the people who are volunteering, you sit in these trucks with them. You're like, what makes you volunteer? It's like, oh, dude, fuck, COVID was just destroying my life. I'm so depressed. All I do is play video games. My girlfriend left me. I just need to do something. Then they're here. Or like some woman, she's like, oh my God, I'm this and that. I've suffered through some shit and whatever. And so I'm here. Like these are like most of the people in the volunteer world, A, majority women. Mm-hmm. B, which is probably not surprising to anyone, but B is like, there are a lot of people who are like, they're just fucking cool cats working off shit, like rebels without a cause. And then they volunteer because it makes them feel good. And it's just and so you meet people from all walks of life. You're all over the GTA. You're helping people from all walks of life. Abuse does not discriminate. I have moved people out. I have moved wealthy people, low income people, race, background, color, creed, whatever it is. Like it is not the only common denominator that I've noticed when people share their stories, because sometimes people share their stories. The only common denominator I've noticed is that alcohol is almost 100% a part of the conversation. Almost 100% of the time, at some point when someone describes what they've been through, alcohol was a part of it.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And whether it's physical, mental, social, financial abuse, siblings, kids, aunts, it's unbelievable. It's so crazy. It's just like, I think there's like a word, I forget what it is, but I think that it's called like the shadow pandemic. And so it's like this real thing. It's crazy. And so now I know all about it. And then I come from this like privileged life of mine. I'm not a trust fund baby. I don't have money. I make like no money. I live in $1,000 a month little tiny apartment. But I still, like, when you go out there and you meet these people, it's like, I'm like, what meeting is so important that I can't reschedule to go help someone? And when you're meeting the person right there in front of you, you're in their home, you're seeing the scribbling on the walls, you're like I once like moved like a teenager, and like I was in her bedroom packing up her bedroom, and she was in the car because she didn't want to come inside because she didn't want to see her parents. And I'm making the decisions for what to take for this kid right now. Like, what? and I'm just a jerk on my couch in my underwear 10 minutes ago, you know? Like, it's crazy. And yeah, so we don't need to get too dark, but like, so I get so excited when someone like Lanny comes in. She's like, she's got like, community, she's got connections, she's got financial support and finance herself. Like there's just like, she's like this like well-to-do person, excuse me for describing you that way, but who comes in and is like, I also want to do a move. I also want to meet the clients. I want to get my hands, quote unquote, get my hands dirty. And for us, it's like, it's so exciting because there's so much potential for one person and no pressure. But what I mean is, what I mean is, because what I've done for them, one person, we have a gala coming up on May 10th. I don't mean to date this podcast episode, but we have a gala on May 10th. And we will probably have raised like $250,000 by the end of it. The only reason that's happened is because I've reached out to my whole community. I'm not saying, it's all me. We've teams work. But what I mean is this specific gala, though, really, we're bringing back our old donors, like our current donors, but we're introducing a whole new community of people, which is really like mostly like a kind of Forest Hill community because I went to Forest Hill High School, and they're all coming on board. And so like one person, one conversation can like create so much momentum and so much can come of it. So much can also not. I'm in the business of collecting no's. There's like 30 Lannies have come by and like
really? I thought
bailed.
It was a special.
No, I don't mean, no, what I mean is like people come by and they're excited.
No,
and they say all these things
naturally.
and they don't do it.
For people who want to get involved in Shelter Movers, because it is an amazing organization.
Yes.
They reach out to you, David Keystone. They reach out to Shelter Movers. What's the best way for people to get involved?
In my life, anyone can connect with me at Dave Keystone on all social media. But sheltermovers.com. We have chapters across the country. We have 9 chapters across Canada. We're just ever expanding. The need is insane. You can go to sheltermovers.com/volunteer if you want to volunteer. But all the information.
But there's like, you can do any type of the process. So if you're someone that's more introverted and you want to do something, not as physical or on a move, you can do, coordinating the move, figuring that out if you're really organized. He was explaining there's like 1,000 different types of.
Look at this person, this human being. Yes, good point, Lanny. Thank you for bringing that up.
Because I just feel like not everyone's going to feel like, I want to be like on a move.
And you paid attention to when we hung out and talked, and you've been paying attention to everything that's happened in your orientation, everything. Yes, there are a lot of volunteer opportunities. The reason it's such a great place to volunteer is you can go do the moves, which you don't have to be like a superhero. I mean, there are people who do the moves of all ages, all.
Do you wear a back brace when you move?
No, I don't. Oh. You could, but you don't need to.
What's the heaviest thing you're lifting?
I think it could be vibing. You said you like couches.
When you go on moves and you're lifting couches, the more able-bodied people on the move will lift the couches. When I've led like 245-ish moves by now. So when I go out on a move, I look at the team that I have and I say, okay, you're gonna help the client pack up clothes. Usually, I want to assign that to a woman to be with the woman and go through her underwear and all that stuff because I don't need to be doing that. I mean, I would, but like it's more comfortable for her if I'm not.
Yeah.
And so, we're super sensitive on these moves. And so, but like the more able-bodied people will lift the couch together. 4 people will lift a couch. Sometimes we have a dresser that's so heavy and it's like, okay, the team, we're all going to do all this. And then all of us together are going to move the dresser together afterwards. You will never be in a position where you're having to strain yourself. We're always telling people like safety first. And, but there are move coordinator positions, like Lanny said, where you're doing it from home. You can help us with advertising, marketing, communications, finance, translators, like whatever your background is, whatever you can bring to the table. If you reach out to me also, I'll give you my personal email, dave@sheltermovers.com. Because if you're even curious, you're like, oh, I think I want to do this, but I want to ask more questions. Or
anyone can DM us and we can put you guys in touch. It's really easy to get in touch. But I think one other really important story that stuck out to me was just something that you're kind of trying to implement, but just how important the help is and how much help Shelter Movers needs is that you were saying there was a move where I think you needed 2 vans or you didn't need the 2 vans to get to where the one location was.
The point that I was making.
This just really stood out for me is how, to me, it was like, this is why I should donate.
Yes,
because it was like, this was.
So the point that I was making to Lanny was, it didn't take 2 years, but when I was going to, for me to start asking my community and my friends for money and going to their families, these wealthy folks, and like sitting down and putting myself in front of this thing, like my reputation, my relationships, whatever. I was like, I really want to know this thing and to know like where the money's going, how it's being spent, that it's like super, like we're like pretty cheap. For example, what I told Lanny is that like, if we have a truck, if the move coordinator assessed that or like made the recommendation that we need a full truck and a van, and then we get to the move and we only needed the truck and we're about to drive someone's stuff to Aurelia, I'll have the volunteer driving the van go drop off the van and like be done for the day. The rest of the team will go do it so we don't waste $120 on gas to like go to Aurelia and back when we don't need to. These are like real people making real decisions. And so we're all always considering the cost. I just got glad to donate like 9,600 garbage bags. And like, it wouldn't have cost us that much, but like, it's going to save us like $1,000 a year. So I'm going to do it. And on this gala, like there's little things that I'm like just not being cheap about, but being like, being resourceful.
Yeah, resourceful.
And the other thing that I guess I just thought of was about this idea that I totally forget. How about that? I totally forget what I was about to say.
Okay, if it comes back to you,
okay.
Yeah.
No, and it's gone.
Okay.
A lot of people always ask how clients find us. I just wanted to kind of say, clients find, because if people are listening, this is a common question. So I'll answer a couple common questions. Clients find, when I said real people, the real people making decisions. Clients find us through their social workers, their caseworkers, police. But like, I have a bunch of people who know that I do this now, and I've had a couple friends reach out to me and say, "Hey, I have a friend going through this problem. Can you guys help them?" And I'll go to the operations manager. I'll talk to her, and we'll help them. We don't want to be another bear. If anyone wants to, I'll tell you this: the first 2 episodes of the TV series, Netflix series MAID, MAID,
I couldn't watch.
It's a very difficult thing to watch.
It was an amazing show.
Right, but all the crap that these people have to go through, that survivors and people who are fleeing abuse have to go through, we don't want to be another like asking too many questions. If you go online, if you put info@sheltermovers.com, if someone needs help, there's always someone monitoring that email address, and they'll only ask, "Have you experienced abuse?" The end. They won't ask more questions. And if some people I was talking to the executive director and founder, the CEO and founder about it at one point. I was like, it feels sometimes like someone might be like taking advantage of us. Like she didn't really need the help, or he didn't really need the help, because we move men too. And we're like, if the cost of doing business is like 10, 20 people a year taking advantage of us, we don't want to be a barrier.
Yeah, you work that into your margin. As much as it's it's an organization, and you're implementing things to help it run more efficiently. And I think that was like one of the biggest. I mean, I've only been kind of new to this and exploring this, but even when I was exploring on my own different opportunities, like that was the biggest challenge. Even getting in the door.
That's right.
Like,
that's right.
So,
well, that is the hardest thing to watch in that show, where it's like she cannot get the help.
It's so sad.
She's in the situation. She wants the help, and she can't get the help.
Can I actually make another promo just because you've seen the show?
Yeah.
You know when she's in the shelter and they have basically like a store like for clothes that's like free?
Yes.
So I get goosebumps when I tell there are some really well-funded shelters in the city that have like
I've seen that, but clothing stores.
There are shelters of all kinds in the city. And some of them do have pantries where when someone leaves, they can go like kind of grocery shop and stuff.
Yeah.
But those are like, there are some, not all the shelters have that, but some do. But there is, I just want to give a promo. There's a place called New Circles in Toronto. You can Google New Circles, and it is like a very dignified clothing shopping experience, like getting clothing bank experience for new immigrants and women and their families. And I think you have to be in a certain locale for them to be able to get their clothes, like for someone to become a client of theirs. But if you live in the GTA and you're dropping off clothes somewhere, look up a place called News Circles. You just drop it off, you walk away. Excellent. It feels just like that store in Maid.
I think that's actually really good to know, because I feel like we always get questions from our listeners or followers about where they can donate clothes, books, like all the time.
Getting rid of stuff.
Yeah.
Is the most difficult thing ever.
Queen of it.
Yeah.
Queen of it. You would actually be great on these moves.
New Circles for clothes.
Everything. People would be like, where's my diary?
There is, I will say this.
We purged. We did a purge.
I shouldn't be saying this because there's an opportunity here, but there is a very big gap in the reallocating furniture world. There are some furniture banks, but a lot of them will charge you to drop it off or charge you to get it or drop off, pick up, all that stuff.
Storage in general,
storage in general sucks. But there's so much stuff that goes to waste. It's so sad. But just to tell everyone out there, if people are like, oh, I have this stuff, I don't know what to do, how to get rid of it. And the other thing about donating furniture, people are like, oh, I'm going to donate my furniture. it needs to be sized appropriately for small apartments that a lot of our clients are moving into.
Right.
It needs to be good quality because we want to give them a dignified piece of furniture instead of like some like your old Cheshka stuff. So the truth is, I tell people often is that clothing, places like New Circles, mattresses, nowhere will take it because of bed bugs and all that jazz. So you put a mattress for free on Facebook Marketplace, someone will come pick it up from your house in 2 seconds. And then toys and stuff like objects, you have to just bring them to Value Village. Very few places will take it. And then I also want to say, if you live in the GTA, there's a place called Abuse Hurts. You can look it up, Google Abuse Hurts. They provide like belongings, like stuff, you know, like dishes, whatever for survivors of abuse. And so Abuse Hurts is also a great place to look into. But furniture, tough to get rid of furniture and get it to a place that's like meaningful.
It's big, it's heavy, and no one has a home.
I feel like literally when we're trying to get rid of furniture, it's like literally whoever will take it.
That's right.
As long as you don't charge for moving, like just take it.
You know the way I see it, and I always feel this way, is that if you don't need money for it, like put it for free on Facebook. If someone on Facebook Marketplace or Kijiji or Craigslist needs something for free, they need it. And if they're going to take it and they're going to sell it and that's how they're making money in their life, good. Whatever. Like if someone's picking up free stuff off of online, they need it for whatever reason. So give it to them.
No, it's smart. I just feel like some people, literally to your point, don't even know where to start with it. They have so much shit, or they like, you know, it's just good to have a few good places knowing what. Like sometimes I just even drop my stuff in the clothing garbage
bins,
in all those bins, and you don't know where it's going.
Yeah,
it's funny. I saw the guy. I live across from a Shoppers Drug Mart in Toronto, and they have this green bin, one of those things. And I'm always like, who the hell, who's what? And recently, I saw a guy picking it up. First time in 10 years, I saw someone there picking it up. Made me happy.
Oh yeah. Well, it's the same with junk. Like when we call the junk guys, like they're like, there's a bunch of stuff that's still okay. I'm like, can you donate this?
Yeah.
Because I'm
do they?
They say they do. They say stuff that's like,
ma'am, it's like going
so the
right
1-800 got junk type guys.
Yeah.
So some of their stuff they throw to the trash. Some of their stuff they try to get rid of.
That's good.
They try.
Yeah.
But
that's also not their main job.
I'm not throwing that. I'm not speaking on behalf of that company, but just all those companies in general. Yeah. They try, but the reality is a lot of it gets thrown in the garbage.
Yeah. Maybe they keep it for themselves. Some good stuff in there.
Well, I don't know if it's falling in your lap.
Sometimes.
Sometimes
they do.
Yeah. I had a question because one of the things in your amazing bio that you said in the beginning, one of the things you said you did was get advice from kids.
Yes.
Can we like go there? Because I just feel like I just switching gears a little.
I'll go there every day of the week.
What are the questions? What's the advice?
Yeah. Let me first of all clarify for folks. I have worked in the children's business in my life. I host a show on CBC called Small Talk where we get life advice and perspective from kids. I hosted a show called Cooked on YTV where it's like a kids cooking game show. I was in the summer camping business for 15 years. I was in the bar mitzvah business for like 20 years. This does not mean that I like kids. I just want to clarify. I just want everyone to know.
That was an interesting intro.
That's right. I think kids are cute and they're nice. But like I say to my nieces and nephews and my siblings, my sisters, I'm like, look, I love you because I love my sisters. But if my sisters were out of the picture, there's a good chance you are on your own. But what I mean is, I'm just joking, obviously. Kids are all right. But like, I don't like lean into like wanting to like educate kids and care about kids and all the kids. Kids are all right. I don't have any of my own. But here's what's great about so here's some insight I can give you. So I host a show called Small Talk on CBC. We get life advice and perspective from kids. It came from... I had been talking to a kid at a summer camp who came to my table every day. And he'd always like sit at my table and be like, Dave, what's going on, man? How are you, man? What's going on? He's like 10 years old, this kid named Kai. And it was so funny that he'd always come up to my table every day in the dining hall that I was like, I'd be like, oh, I have a crush on this girl. I don't know how to talk to her. And he'd be like, you should go say hi to her, man. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You know, like he was so beyond his years. So we created a series called Kids On. So if you go on YouTube and you type in Kids On Canoodle, because the company was called Canoodle Content. So if you type in Kids on Canoodle, there's a whole series where we're getting dating and relationship advice from kids. So funny, so cute. It went viral all over the place, all over the world, whatever. And then CBC reached out and said, we want you to do the exact same thing, but kids talking on kids issues. So that show's called Small Talk. People are always like, oh, you're so good at talking to kids. Oh my God, you're so good with the kids. And it's like, I tell people all the time about talking to kids, because apparently a lot of people are intimidated by talking to kids.
Well, you don't really know what to say to them, especially with the age range. So if you don't have one, it's like
it's
confusing.
I got all the tips.
Okay.
Speak to them like they're adults.
That's what I do.
Don't swear. The end. Talk to them like they're real adults. Don't swear, and that's it. The thing I always ask kids, always, whenever I meet kids, if I know like I'm gonna want to have the kid like me and want to hang out and talk or whatever. If you know you're just like sitting there and you need to like have a chat with some kid, you're left like, I don't know, sitting at like some dinner beside some kid. Honestly, at my Seder sometimes, they're like at family dinner.
Are you at the kids table?
Friday night dinner, I'm like, there's some kid beside me. Always, the easiest thing I always do is I always say like, hey man, what's up? You know, what grade are you in? They're like, oh, grade, you know, whatever it is. And say, how old are you in that grade? And they're like, oh, you know, you're 13. And I'm like, how's being 13-year-old these days? That's it. How is being a 13-year-old these days? The kid doesn't know what hit them. And they come up, you have no idea where that conversation is going to go. But to ask a kid, they're like, oh, I'm 8. Like, what? How's being 8 these days? What's 8 like? The end. That's like always, it's like easiest intro ever to a kid.
Okay.
I think that's great advice. I was just listening to like a podcast on parenting and stuff, and she kind of said something similar where it's like parents always feel the need to like get in there, give their opinion, and try to just, you know, insert themselves, where it's like exactly what you said, just literally giving them a question. That one doctor, Dr. Becky Goodinside, she was like, ask your kids today, what should I do differently as a parent?
Whew.
Like
Not
if
gonna
you
throw
like
that one out there.
imagine an employee, like if your boss came to you and was like, what would I do differently?
Yeah.
What would, so I did that. Cause I was like, I'm having like, you know, a hard time with one of my kids. So I was like, you know, if I could do better, how could I do better as a parent?
And
Dude,
give you something
that's
critical.
She
amazing.
did. She actually gave me great
Holy
advice.
cow. I'll
Yeah.
lose my mind.
Yeah.
I wish we were there.
And then it just kind of ended the conversation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was almost like, oh, well, I can actually like tell
Yeah.
you how you should be. Like it,
Well,
I
'cause
think she
feel
just
like
felt
she probably-
empowered.
Yeah, she probably felt more equalized in this situation too. You know, that she
Totally.
had a voice and that you were listening to her. It wasn't just being like, mommy, the parent has to like, because as a parent, they're all like, they just don't know fucking left from right. So like the control has to come from somewhere. But if you can manage the control, I think,
Yeah.
with like showing that you're human. I feel
Yeah.
like that to apologize. I apologized to my son the other day about something and I was like, I really like, it was my wrong. And like, I didn't, you never really think you're wrong as a parent because you're like, I always am trying to do the best thing for you, but you really are fucking wrong sometimes. And I was.
Yeah, I forgot the third thing because I used to talk about this all the time was speak to them like they're adults, don't swear, and listen intently. Listen to their answer. Don't panic about the next thing you have to say. Listen to what they say to you. So when you said, and I'm really curious. So yeah, Lanny, how many kids do you have?
3.
And you have 4 kids? This is the most unbelievable thing. And all 3 of your kids also came out of your body?
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
you believe that?
Dave asked me if I incubated all my kids.
Dude,
Ryan
I'm
had my
jealous.
kids.
If I could have a child, the fact that you guys get to
Oh, he would say
Oh,
something
you want to be like
"Ugh."
Junior?
No. Here's the thing. Listen. Don't get me wrong. I understand that. Like, can we go a little? I've been raised basically by women, so like I'm comfortable talking about diva cups and all that shit. I'm not nervous about this stuff. It doesn't make me uncomfortable. I love it. People are like, oh, you have sex on a woman's period? It's like, yeah, sure, it's natural, whatever. Oh my God, I can't believe you're okay with that. It's like, what are you talking
My
about?
10-year-old actually asked me about that the other day because she's in sex ed. She's like, do women have sex on their period? I'm
They
like,
sure do.
some men do like it.
So secretly, here's another thing. Ready?
Some
Real
women like
secretly
it.
that I don't promote too often, but it was one of the best programs I ever produced. There's a show on YouTube called Sex on the Street TV.
We just talked about it
Dude,
because
it's so funny.
after I told everyone I was meeting with you, that's the only video I got sent.
Well,
so everyone
right.
was
Well,
like
no.
crying.
Well, yeah. And I am aware that you got sent that, but the period sex episode was one of the most popular episodes because like 50% are like, I'm menstruating, I have cramps. That's the one time of the month I want people to leave me alone.
Sorry. So the sex on the street is you.
Sex on the Street TV is me going on the street, interviewing people, talking about like kind of taboo sex subjects that I don't understand what the hell's going on. Like,
Okay.
what happened to pubic hair, everybody? Where'd it
Yeah,
go?
that was the big one that I saw, the pubic hair thing. And he went
Where'd
up
it go?
to every walk
I'm
of
a
life
bush-
asking them.
I'm an advocate of pubic hair.
You're a bush
now,
man.
Now, if you don't have it, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I'll take it all. If I have to take it,
You don't discriminate,
I'll
but
even
you
take it on the
prefer.
sides. If I have to take it on the
Oh.
sides to get to the everything else, great. Leave your pubic hair. All my friends know, and you say ooh, yeah, armpit hair, whatever has to be there. Because I grew up on pubic hair.
I just find the pubic hair with the period, that's where it gets a little messy.
Look, man,
I think it depends on the person.
Yeah.
I grew up on pubic hair. Okay.
As my 6-year-old son likes to say, different people like different things.
Different stroke, totally. And I don't
That's
discriminate.
literally his
I
mantra.
don't discriminate. Bald is beautiful too. But like if I have a choice and I want to, and when I go on a date or something, I want someone to know as soon as possible. Because if we're going to hook up,
Oh.
I want her to start, and she would like leave it for me. I want her to start doing that as soon as possible.
So I'm curious of the dating then, because I feel like this is very uncommon. How many women are like seals or bushes?
Here's the interesting thing. I think that a lot of people get rid of their pubic hair. A lot of when we talk about women, can we just speak women? Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of women get rid of pubic hair. But what's interesting is when I say that I'm admittedly a full bush man, like we're a rare breed, but we still exist is kind of how I frame it. And like full bush melts my heart. Almost always I'll get back something like, that's a relief, or like less work, less whatever. I'm so like,
Apparently it's good for hygiene
but
too.
some people are like, I'm sorry, that's not going to be me. I've been like fucking lasering like genocide since like day one. And
just
so
obliterating any bushes
since day one, like zap, 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 like fucking like planet, like Mars Attacks or Men in Black, zap, zap, zap.
What?
But we started this conversation talking about shelter movers, and something that I've been struggling with is this idea that there's like this idea that like right now, if I told anyone from shelter movers to come listen to this podcast episode, right? They're going to hear the good stuff, and then they're going to hear us talking about like sex and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that both can live in tandem. Not when we're talking about shelter movers, like I'm not talking about this stuff like in shelter movers, vans and trucks and whatever. But I believe that people can wear different hats in life, as long as when you're wearing that hat, you're appropriate in that space, and you're right. And so something that I've been struggling with that I find really uncomfortable, that I'd love to hear your perspectives on, is this idea that like, or like in my social media, if I'm talking shit about something one day, and then it's like, but I'm also like doing this really important thing during the day, right? Or right here, right now, we're talking about this really important thing. And then we're talking about, dick and fart jokes and whatever. And it's like, I hate that would be frowned upon, or could be frowned upon. Or I kind of think that when you make it, when it's like, when you present a real human being, because we are all so multifaceted, that should be okay. And I guess we all feel it because we're all sitting here right now talking about it.
No, I feel like
agree with that.
No,
100%.
I think most people are dual. And I think it's just how you choose to express yourself. We dealt with that having a brand too on social media. We shared it together. We were a certain way. It was like, could we post that? Could we not? Would that be like a pro? Like there was always those considerations.
There was always consideration.
Or even like, can I be my real authentic self? And probably no, I cannot. When
I put sex out in the street, I created this show, Sex on the Street TV. Then I got on YTV. Believe it or not, because of it. Like someone saw it as a host and they were like, oh, he's a great host. And then YTV wanted me to take Sex on the Street TV offline. But before all that happened, I had put Sex on the Street TV out, and I was working with a bar mitzvah company and a summer camp. And the bar mitzvah company had a lot of problems with it. And the summer camp, one of the directors said, as long as when you're on our property, you're doing what I need you to do, and you're presenting well for these kids and not talking about these things with obviously children, and you are doing what you do, I believe that people can wear different hats. And when she said that, I was like, thank you so much, It's sort of like this Bob Saget thing where like Bob Saget was the father on Full House, and then his comedy was like completely crass and inappropriate.
Yeah.
But that was like before social media was like such a big thing, and things being taken so out of context or not. And so I kind of struggle with it. I think social media is a big part of why I struggle with it. So here's something else I want to say. What I've been thinking about a lot lately. I am 40-ish years old. I grew up in a middle-class family. My parents are both doctors, and they always said, do whatever makes you happy. And what made me happy in high school was smoking weed and just hanging around. And I've realized recently, because I don't make a lot of money, okay? And something that I find, it's an insecurity of mine for sure. I'm stable, like I'm fine. I've never not been able to afford the cheese I want, and I can always get like, so I always have this joke that like, as long as I can afford the cheese I want, everything's fine. But when I'm thinking about relationships and family and all that stuff, about like making money, right? And so I've only ever made enough money for me to survive, and I've been fine with that and happy with that. It's a choice I've decided to make. I don't feel like I had the aptitude growing up to become a doctor, lawyer, or dentist, and so this has been my path: creative pursuits and using my my personality to get by. And I've been thinking recently about this thing that like my parents, when they didn't do this purposely, but I was raised in, so I don't have inheritance per se. So I'm not a trust fund. Like there's no trust fund, but I was raised in a middle-class community, and I have a lot of friends who do have trust funds, who will inherit a lot of money. And I have a lot of friends who won't. And I was thinking about the other day that like my parents basically, not on purpose, I was basically programmed from when I was born till I was around 20, till I like moved out, to be accustomed to a certain lifestyle. Like not on purpose. It's just that's the life that I was living. So for 20 years, through the most formative years of my life, I've been programmed to be accustomed to a certain lifestyle. And then I go off into the world and learn that if I want to maintain that lifestyle, it's up to me to earn the money to be able to maintain that kind of lifestyle. And then I have to spend the next 20 years having conversations with myself. Do I care about that lifestyle that much? Do I need to have a house that much? I'd have to work really fucking hard, and not even work hard, but work hard doing things I don't really care to do. Like I don't really want to be a salesperson. I don't really want to be a doctor or lawyer. Like, and so how do I, and so, and I've been thinking recently, like, do I resent my parents a bit for not being like, dude, when I was in high school, like you hear about second generation immigrants where they come here, and this is what our parents all experience. Their parents experience, I don't know what your parents, but like the parents experience the Holocaust. They come here and they're like, you're going to fucking work because I just worked my ass off. And so you're going to work your ass off. And a lot of Japanese families who come here who like, live in Japanese internment camps, get out of them after World War II and say, you're going to fucking work. But then this third generation, my parents, did not say, you're going to fucking work because if you want any of this, you have to earn it yourself. And that's what you're making a mistake here versus my parents who said, whatever makes you happy. And it's like, now that I look back, I'm like, what the fuck were you telling me that for? It made me happy with smoking weed and doing nothing. But honestly, like just literally
But are you happy?
vandalizing. But so,
Are you
am I
happy?
happy? I've had to do a lot, and I still consistently do it, of work on, see, what I come up with recently, and I wrote this in my holiday card last year. I send holiday cards now. I think it's kind of funny that people do that. And it's like, because Jews don't do that, but like Christian community does. And I was like, oh, why the fuck can't I? So I send holiday cards now. It's really funny. But so I always send a sentiment. And last year's was, I think the pursuit of happiness is cute, but better is the pursuit of living contentedly. I am content. I have happy and sad days, but overall I am content. But I do have this insecurity about like, if I have a kid and have a family and all this stuff. So am I happy? I'm happy because I do so much work to keep myself like, I go on shelter moves to keep reminding myself how fortunate I am. I blah, blah, blah. I absolutely will admit that I have jealousy around some of my friends who live in beautiful homes and have not had to work very hard for it. Or some of them work very hard in their own lives, but like they certainly wouldn't be living in that house if they were on the career path they're on, but whatever. But like, so we're all doing our thing. But like, so I have jealousy and I get envious and I call it couch envy. I fucking get jealous of people's couches. When I come into your home, this is a beautiful home. We're in a beautiful home. The only thing I care about is your couch. But I now have a really wicked couch. So I'm like, I'm done with my couch envy. I don't give a shit anymore. But back to
the parenting thing though, if your mom would have been harder on you,
I would have resented them. I would have hated them.
You might still be where you might exactly.
That's right.
So,
I think I would have hated them. I would have said, fuck you and I hate you. So it's hard to say, but this deprogramming thing that I realized recently, that I have to deprogram 20 years of a lifestyle to find contentment in my little apartment and know that that's okay. And like, so I do a lot of work on that. And so I wonder, like when you were talking about like you're parenting your kids and you're raising your kids, I guess I just had this epiphany recently. And so now that we're talking about parenting, it's something that I've been thinking about.
I think there's so much pressure as parents and having kids. And it's like you said, you go through life. It's like you meet someone, you have a baby. It's one thing into the next. And it's like, there's no fucking manual. You just do it and you try to be your best person. But like, are you the best person? And you're trying to be the best person for the kids. And I truly believe this, that like being a good role model is the best type of parenting you can do.
Anyways.
Okay. Well, I feel like this was a hit.
Wow.
We learned a lot about you, Dave.
We covered a lot of ground here.
We covered a lot of ground, and I want to try to segue back to shelter movers. I'm trying to think about how to do that. And I think what it's about is that all the things that we've talked about, all these different, we've really, boy, have we covered the gamut. But I think what all of it does, though, in my segue and how to segue back to shelter movers is that like all these things, they're all like, we're all trying our best. We're all trying, you guys are trying to raise kids. I'm trying to figure out my life and what the hell's going on. And we're all doing what we're doing. There are a lot of people who are in our cities who are living in like really bad, horribly abusive situations that are like, they're like living in almost like prisons. It's so sad and crazy. And so it just puts into perspective that all the things we're talking about, they're like, we're all going to the same place. We're all going to be buried. I have this joke I'm working on recently that I've been thinking about this idea that like my dad died at like 76. a sort of cousin of my mom's died recently in like his mid 70s. And I was at their funerals and there were so many people there, these big, great funerals, and people are saying all these nice things. There's all this thing that I have this joke that I'm working on where like, if you want to have a good funeral, you need to die between 75 and 80 because all your buddies are still alive. All your kids are at an age where they'll be there. Their friends will be attending the funeral. They're at an age where they respectfully go to funerals. So like if you want a great funeral, you have to die between 75 and 80 because it's also like, it's not like so tragic because it's like they did live a long life. So we can kind of have that celebration angle. So like if you're worried about your funeral and who's going to be there, if you're thinking about the end of your life, make sure you die by 80, like between 75 and 80.
If you want the biggest turnout.
That's right. Biggest turnout.
Right.
And like everyone's there saying nice things. But the reality, I think I'm going to live to like 102. I'm going to bury everyone I know. And so the joke I've been thinking about myself recently is like when I'm like kind of like sizing myself up against everyone and thinking about my future and the generation, if I don't have kids and I don't have like someone to carry on after me and all this shit, I'm probably going to fucking bury everyone I know. And so when I'm standing there and I'm thinking about at the end of my life and I'm thinking about like, oh, what do they think of me now? What do they gives a shit? They're dead. Like, oh, what they thought of me, they're fucking dead. I'm fucking still standing here. So who gives a shit about what they think? But I don't know what that rant was about. But I guess what I want to say is I want to talk about perspective and the idea that there are not only that there are a lot of worse things happening out there usually, but that there are a lot of people who are living in our cities who need a lot of help. And we spend so much time thinking about ourselves. So many of my friends spend time thinking about themselves. I have a bunch of buddies who are like not very charitable and whatever. And they're admittedly that. So many people I know are thinking about themselves. It takes the work that we were talking about to find volunteer work that works for you. It's like, it's work, but it's not like that much work.
Yeah.
And it's like, and going out and helping other people once a week for an hour, once a month for an hour, like go do it because like helping other people need our help. And so like go do that because the impact you can have on people's lives and how it can change your lives and the perspective it can give you. Like there are people who really need help. And while we're here talking about all this stuff, it's like, so go find them and go help them because you can.
Yeah. And I think the bigger takeaway is that it doesn't have to be that overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yes, you can maybe find a volunteer job that works for you right away or not, but anything you can do, like, you know, even in your personal life, even not finding, I would say something like an organization, something that you knew that could help out a friend or
the
someone
gift
that would
it will
need,
give
you know
back
what I
to
mean?
you,
Like,
Lanny, when you start coming out and doing moves, it is going to change your life.
I'm so excited.
It's crazy. And you'll go on a few moves and you don't always meet the client and it's not always like the worst situation you've ever seen in your life, whatever. But you do like 10 moves. In 10 moves, you will see some stuff that you're like, I cannot believe that is like literally 3 blocks away from where I live and that this person is there and I have no idea. And you have no idea that that's a shelter and that's a shelter and oh my God, and this and that. And it's just like, it's crazy. Blow your mind, change your life.
Well, cheers to that. We're looking
Awesome.
forward to it. Anyways, thanks Dave for coming
I really
on.
appreciate you giving me the platform to talk about this. And I hope that your listeners will be tolerant of the fact that we did discuss lots of very different things that don't all live.
We're used
that
to
don't all
that.
live under the same umbrella.
Hey ladies.
All right. On that note, we're out.
Don't flood our inbox.
Thank you.
Bye.